From the roar of the 60s muscle cars to today's modern monsters, today's the day we're finally ranking the greatest American V8 engines from Chevy, Dodge, and Ford. We're breaking down these iconic engines into S-tier legends, A-tier classics, and well, a few that missed the mark. Now, let's look into the ultimate American V8 tier list. Alright gearheads, before we unleash these beasts, let's lay down the ground rules. We're ranking these V8s on power, reliability, and straight-up legendary status. S-tier. Those are the GOATs, unmatched in every way. A-tier engines are brilliant, but maybe missing one tiny thing to hit perfection. B-tier. Dependable workhorses, no doubt, but not exactly groundbreaking. C-tier gets a needs work grade, flawed but maybe salvageable. And finally, D-tier. Let's say you might want to steer clear unless you're a glutton for punishment and love the smell of burning oil. Got it? Alright, first up we have the LS7, an absolute legend. This 7.0-liter naturally aspirated monster powered the C6 Corvette Z06, screaming all the way to 7,000 RPM and cranking out a savage 505 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Built like a race engine, it's got a forged steel crankshaft, titanium connecting rods, CNC ported heads, and a dry sump oil system straight out of motorsports. It's lightweight, high revving, and brutally powerful. Honestly, S-tier, no debate. If you love raw unfiltered performance, the LS7 is king. Next up, we have an absolute icon, the Chevy 350 small block. This 5.7-liter that's 350 cubic inches of pure American muscle engine practically built Chevy's reputation. From roaring Chevelles to trusty Silverados, this workhorse was everywhere. You bet your bottom dollar. Now, it's not exactly setting any dyno records these days, let's be honest, compared to the modern monsters we'll be talking about. It's a bit underpowered. But we gotta give credit where credit is due. This engine was the backbone of American cars for decades. So, with a respectable nod to its legacy, we're slapping a solid B tier on this classic. Now, if you want a Chevy legend that's a little more accessible, say hello to the LS3. Found in the Camaro SS and C6 Corvette, this 6.2-liter powerhouse cranks out 430 horsepower and 424 pound-feet of torque in stock form. But slap on some mods and it wakes up big time. It's not as high-strung as the LS7, but it's rock-solid, affordable, and insanely versatile. With strong internals and a killer aftermarket, this thing is a modding dream. AT for sure, brilliant, reliable, and an all-around beast. Do you think this is the end of the V8 era? Electric's on the rise. The future seems to be humming, not roaring. But hold on, don't write the V8's obituary just yet. A band of rebellious engineers isn't ready to let these fire-breathing giants fade into history. They're fighting back, pushing the very limits of what a V8 can be. We're talking about hybrid systems that boost power and efficiency. The V8 isn't going down without a fight, and it's evolving, adapting, and refusing to be silenced. The rumble is far from over. Okay, now let's talk about an engine that deserves some respect, maybe. The 90s Chevy LT1. This 5.7-liter had some cool ideas, like reverse flow cooling. Innovative, right? But then there's the OptiSpark ignition system. Nightmare doesn't even begin to describe it. When this thing worked, it was peppy, I'll give it that. But when it didn't, you were stuck changing distributors in the pouring rain. Seriously. So while we appreciate the effort, the LT1 lands squarely in C tier. A flawed engine with potential, but ultimately it's a bit of a headache. A pity C tier indeed. Last but not least, from Chevy, we have the Vortec 5300, or as early 2000s truck owners might call it, a love-hate relationship on wheels. This 5.3-liter V8 was built for Silverados, Sierras, and SUVs, making around 295 to 320 horsepower and 335 to 340 pound-feet of torque. Sounds decent, right? Well, then came active fuel management AFM, blowing head gaskets in the process. Oil consumption issues? Oh yeah. This one lands in the D tier, and honestly, that's way too nice. Now, let's talk about a brand that treats horsepower like a religion, Dodge. For the everyday gearhead, the 5.7-liter Hemi's the people's V8. This engine revived the Hemi name in the 2000s, dropping into Chargers, Challengers, Rams, and more, cranking out a solid 345 horsepower and 375 pound-feet of torque. It's reliable, torquey, and sounds great, but let's be real, it's the vanilla ice cream of Hemis. It gets the job done, but it won't blow your mind like the 6.4-liter or Hellcat variants. Still, for a budget-friendly, no-nonsense American V8, it's a B-tier classic, strong, fun, and built to last. Now we're about to unleash the king of chaos, the 6.2-liter Hellcat supercharged Hemi. We're talking 6.2 liters of pure fury, a supercharged sledgehammer that boasts a mind-blowing 707 horsepower. This beast laughs in the face of fuel economy. Yeah, it drinks gas like a frat house keg on a Saturday night, but honestly, who cares when you can outrun helicopters? Seriously, this engine is pure adrenaline. It's a testament to raw power and unadulterated American muscle. So, is there any doubt? S tier all the way. Alright, now, if you want Hemi power without the supercharger headaches, well, let's say hello to the 392 Hemi. This 6.4-liter naturally aspirated beast cranks out 485 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque, making it the heart and soul of the Challenger Scat Pack, Charger RT Scat Pack, and even some Jeeps and Rams. It's a modern muscle icon, pulling hard with a glorious exhaust note. But here's the catch, it loves oil like a fine whiskey, so keep a quart in the trunk. That little flaw drops it to A tier. Anyways, moving on with our list. Next up, we have the 5.9-liter Magnum, which is proof that not every Dodge V8 is a home run. Found in 90s Rams, Dakotas, and Durangos, this old-school pushrod V8 made around 245 horsepower and 335 pound-feet of torque. Not bad for its time. It had grunty low end, but weak cylinder heads, bracked valve seats, and a gas-guzzling habit that kept it from greatness. It tried hard, but against newer tech, it just couldn't keep up. Solid for towing and torque, but far from exciting. That lands it in C tier. Decent, but definitely not Dodge's finest hour. Alright, here's where I piss off most of the petrol heads, the 426 Hemi. Yeah, it's legendary. Yeah, it made 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. And yeah, it powered some of the most iconic muscle cars of the 60s and 70s. But let's be real, it was massive, heavy, expensive, and had oiling issues that could turn your dream engine into a nightmare. Plus, tuning it? About as easy as handling a rattlesnake. It's a racing icon, no doubt, but in the real world, D tier. Sorry, but some legends are better left in the history books. Now, let's shift gears to the Blue Oval. Ford's V8s are a mix of innovation and what were they thinking? To start off Ford's list, we have the 4.6-liter modular V8. The engine that powered 90s Mustang GTs with a grand total of 215 horsepower and 285 pound-feet of torque. That's weaker than a decaf espresso. Sure, it was smooth and reliable, but between its plastic intake manifolds that love to crack and underwhelming power, it was more cruiser than bruiser. It's got nostalgia points, but if you're looking for thrills, keep searching. C tier for sure. Not terrible, not great, just kinda there. Next up, we have an icon for all the truck lovers out there. Ford's got a monster of its own, the 7.3-liter Godzilla. This beast is all about torque, and no fancy turbos are needed. We're talking 7.3 liters of pure American grit, churning out 430 horsepower and enough grunt to tow a house. It's new on the scene, so we're giving it a solid A tier for now. American V8s, purely American muscle, born and bred in the USA, right? That's the story they want you to believe. But we're here to shatter that illusion. The truth is, these all-American icons have a surprisingly global pedigree. Forget the marketing hype, and we're digging deep to expose the hidden influences, from subtle European engineering tweaks to, dare we say, even gasp Japanese manufacturing techniques. These engines aren't as homegrown as you think. Prepare to have your stars and stripes ruffled. Moving on, we have the Coyote 5.0-liter, Ford's dual overhead cam masterpiece. Found in the Mustang GT, this high-revving beast screams all the way to 7,500 RPM, churning out a killer 460 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. It's smooth, insanely tunable, and sounds like angels rev-matching in heaven. Whether stock or boosted, this thing rips. With forged internals, a strong aftermarket, and that glorious exhaust note, it's a no-brainer. S tier, zero debate, this is Ford's modern V8 legend. Rewind to the 70s and the 351 Windsor was the backbone of Ford everywhere, trucks, vans, and even the occasional Mustang. This tough 5.8-liter small block V8 cranked out around 250 to 290 horsepower and was known for its durability and torque. It wasn't a race winner by today's standards, but man, it got the job done. Reliable, tough as nails, and ready for anything. It was the engine you trusted. B tier for sure. It's a loyal soldier, but it's not taking home any trophies in the modern era. To wrap up the list, we have the 5.7-liter Triton, where things went sideways for Ford. This V8 made around 300 to 330 horsepower, but man did it have issues. The spark plugs had a habit of either welding themselves to the block or shooting out like confetti. Seriously. It's D tier, no debate, and honestly, good riddance. It may have had potential, but the reliability was just a disaster. Alright gearheads, to sum up the V8 royalty. In the S tier, we've got the legends, Chevy's LS7, the king of legacy, and Ford's modern marvel, the Coyote. Well, Dodge is the wild card represented here by the Hellcat. They're either hitting S tier glory or falling into D tier chaos. A tier brings us the strong contenders, the LS3, the 392 Hemi, and Ford's torque monster, Godzilla. Moving down the line, B tier holds the reliable workhorses, the Chevy 350, the 5.7 Hemi, and the 351 Windsor. C tier gets a little rougher, the LT1, the 5.9 Magnum, and the 4.6 modular. And finally in D tier, we have the engine's best left forgotten, the Vortec 5300, the early 426 Hemi, and the 5.4 Triton. Agree? Disagree? Burn your keyboard in the comments by letting me know your thoughts on this. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check our previous video, Least Reliable Chevy Engines Don't Buy, and please subscribe for more Engine Showdown. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.